Welcome everyone to the CCL halftime show. I'm Kyle Fergusson, and today I get to sit down with your desk, with the analyst, with a caster. Welcome Bahamut and Justing to the halftime show. We're going to get to know you guys a little bit, as you're usually talking about the game, and we're going to peek behind the webcam for a moment here. We got both of you, so we're going to trade back and forth a bit. Let's go ahead and start with the new guy at the table, Justine. You've gone from player to analyst. How has the transformation been?
It's definitely been fun. I maybe wasn't expecting to have as much fun as I thought I would. Now that we're actually doing it, it's very different to go from playing the games to watching the games. And I feel like I've actually learned quite a bit more just from analyzing so many games than I maybe even would have as a player. Because as a player, you kind of dread doing the VOD reviews, but here it's my job, so it's a very different perspective on how the game should be played.
Yeah, we hear our casters go about like a secret chat, so you were actually sitting there for every game, watching and helping out the whole time.
Yeah, it's very different to be kind of like behind the scenes and also just watching and sort of studying the games and taking notes on every single game. It's just a really different dynamic. It gives me a lot more perspective, especially into what the other roles are doing and what seems to work for the other roles, because when you're playing, you're only seeing the game through the perspective of your respective role. Like me playing tank, I didn't really notice as much what the supports and the range DPS were doing, for example. So it's just totally different to kind of experience the game like that.
Now, Bahamut, you have gone on quite the journey, not only in CCL, but in your own Heroes play. How did you get into Heroes in the first place? How did you become a caster and now find yourself all the way casting the grand finals for CCL?
It's been crazy. I had a bunch of friends who wanted to play Heroes of Storm when it went into beta, and they were all like, oh, it's a MOBA, let's do it. And I was like, MOBAs, they're not for me. And they're like, but there's no last hitting, there's no buying mechanics. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. And then I started playing a bunch. I did a little bit of casting in Chair League, inspired by Haloran, and then just kept casting because it was just fun. I really enjoyed it over playing the game. I liked, kind of like how Justin was saying, I really liked being able to kind of look at everything and kind of take into perspective what every single role is doing rather than just honing in on my own skills. So, you know, after watching people like Gillyweed and Dreadnought and Haloran, big inspirations for me, I just kept pushing to cast, and here we are. I don't know. I guess they like what I do at Wisdom.
For you, Justin, how did you get into Heroes originally?
So I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do out of high school, and I had planned on playing League. And I was waiting. I had seen the previews for HOTS before the game came out, before it was even released in alpha. And all I was thinking was, I cannot wait to get an alpha invite, because as soon as I do, I'm switching to that game. It looked so much better. I saw the trailer with Blackheart's Bay and all the different maps, and it looked so cool. And as soon as I got an alpha invite in my email, I was just completely hooked. I couldn't stop playing it. I was just having so much fun playing Heroes of the Storm. And it was also nice to get to share that experience with Buds, one of my real life friends, and be able to do that through, you know, my whole HOTS career. So it was definitely just a fun time being able to play with friends and make friends from the alpha on pretty much for the rest of the game.
And you went through the whole track of pro player and all that. How did you get your drafting knowledge to this point? Because I remember an old HGC article where it scandalously said, you can't ban me out.
Yeah, I think that was almost taken a little bit out of context. I wasn't trying to be like cocky. I remember I did the interview, and then afterwards I saw that was like the headline, like the big shocking headline was, you can't ban me out, I'm unbannable, or something like that. But it was really just more like, objectively, if people go out of their way to target ban me, then my team should be able to get just better picks overall. And I was kind of fine with that, because I felt I was pretty flexible with all the games that I had, so I wasn't too worried about personally being banned out. I was kind of hoping for that, because it would open up the drafts for my team.
But you act so unsurprised on the analysis test. How does nothing ever shock you? Have you just seen everything?
I've definitely seen a lot of stuff. I mean, I've played the game since 2015 pretty like as competitively as you could, making a amateur team and kind of rising through the ranks in order to qualify for all the events in 2016 with what was somewhat unknown players at the time. So I've pretty much just played through every meta in existence pretty much nonstop, and I was drafting for almost the entirety of that time. So, and I've also just had a lot of interest in draft the whole time. I think draft is really fun. It's like a game within the game.
Now, Bahamut, back to you. We hear casters often have like a secret strategy, flashcards, friends quizzing them. Where did you amass your game knowledge, and do you do anything weird to keep it going?
So I have heard that a lot of Heroes of Storm casters have used flashcards, and I for a lot of it, for me, was I actually listened to a lot of podcasts. When I was working in an engineering office, I would just listen to Into the Nexus and Core specifically a lot, because it was just a great place where they would discuss different strategies, different drafts, even just patches. So it was great to kind of listen to that. And then overall, it was just, it was my first MOBA. It is my first MOBA. And I just played the game a ton. I played a bunch of AI to try and just like test things out. Just like, does this work? Played a bunch of quick match with friends to try and figure out how to do synergies and shot calling and stuff. And it was just a lot of playing the game realistically taught me a ton of this stuff. And then eventually casting over and over again, it got to the point where I would challenge myself throughout my own cast. Like, all right, can I get through a game without having to hover over a talent to look at the description or the name or even the cooldown on it? So it's just a lot of little challenges, little pushes that I constantly do. Even when I'm streaming on a daily basis, I still try and just kind of quiz myself as I'm playing the game.
When did the race to say first blood start with you and Grubby?
It was weird, actually. I think it was just on broadcast. I think we kept doing it in season 2. Like Grubby would go like first blood, and I would do it from time to time as well. And then it became this one time where both of us almost said it at the same time together. So now it's been almost a challenge. Like, all right, can we get it to line up just perfectly? And it's just been a fun little thing to do while we're casting together.
Justine, for you, many people want to know what's the cat's name, and is there a management strategy you have for getting them on your shoulder?
So her name is Springy, and there is no strategy to that. There's more strategy to getting her off of my shoulder, I'd say. She's just really clingy. She's my little baby cat. I've found her with a litter when she was a tiny little baby cat, so I had to like bottle feed her and stuff. So she sees me as her mom, basically. So she's always kind of keeping track of where I am, and she's just very clingy. So there's no strategy involved. She's just a needy little baby cat.
Adorable. All right. So we've had a full season so far. We're entering the finals, the grand finals here. In your opinion, starting with Bahamut, what's kind of been the storyline of this entire season?
Been, I think, a lot of rise and growth for a lot of players. We've had quite a few new names that are really kind of showcasing their skills, and I think we've had a lot of teams that are kind of shaking up and, making things a little more interesting. I mean, it's the first season we've had reverse sweeps and a ton of reverse sweeps on top of that. And I think that's one of the big storylines, is that it's a season where it feels like it's anyone's game. 30K, yes, they looked extremely strong throughout the group stage, but I feel like even in those matches against 30K, everyone was growing, everyone was striving for a better standard. So I think that's the biggest thing, is the growth of not only the teams, but the players individually.
Justine?
So I definitely agree with that. I think it's been interesting to see 30K kind of remaining at the top somewhat consistently for the majority of the season, all the way up until now. And to see that the rest of the teams are kind of slowly creeping up towards them, like coming up from the bottom. It's cool to see that all the teams have made a bunch of improvement, and that it almost feels like it's a race to being the first team that is finally above 30K in skill power by the time you get to the end of the season, because you don't want to peak too early. And it's cool to see that 30K has remained kind of somewhat just stagnant at the top, and the rest of the teams are kind of just slowly creeping up, trying to overtake them as the season gets closer to the end.
Well, we'll leave the predictions to the full caster desk. So, as all the players get to, let's make sure our a fine analyst and a caster gets to do the same. Shoutouts. Bahamut, who would you like to shout out here at the end of your interview?
Realistically, the biggest shout out I can give is to Jules. She is an amazing leader. She's an amazing commissioner, and we're lucky that she worked so hard on HeroesCCL. So I think that is the biggest shout out for me. Tiniest shout out to Twitch chat. You guys are all right.
There you go. Justine, how about you?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to beat, but definitely just shout outs to Wisdom for kind of bringing HOTS back into the spotlight. It's been really exciting for me to be able to have an opportunity to work on HOTS again, because this game has pretty much been my passion since I started playing it. And to have an avenue to do that again after the HDC was canceled, being in a position where, you know, HOTS is back, just nothing but love for Wisdom and the whole community.
Well said. Well said. Well, everybody, welcome to the finals. Stay tuned.